Hey, so a lot of people wonder what goes into a discovery project. What's the point of the discovery project? It's a phase, or is it a project? How does that all work? As I've explained before, as I've told a lot of folks before, discovery is its own project. It has its own beginning, it has its own end, and it has its own result. So when you're doing discovery, there's a potential that someone says, that the client on the other side says, thank you for this work product, whatever comes out of the discovery, we've decided to go a different direction. And that's perfectly fine. It's also legitimate for you at the end of a discovery project to say, I just don't think we're a good fit. Given what we've discovered you need, this may not be us, right? So the point of discovery, though, right, the reason we do discovery is because someone hasn't shown up and said, this is exactly in detail what I'm looking for. This is exactly how I want you to go about doing it. And since you've done it several times before, this is exactly what I expect you'll probably charge me for it. I mean, when all the risk is gone, when all the dynamics of a project are well understood, you don't need discovery, right? Someone just walks over and says, here, I've written, or I had some other company write a discovery document. These are all the requirements, right? This is all the spec. This is the dynamics. And now, I want to be clear. The point of discovery is not just a requirements document, right? The point of discovery is the reduction of risk. We reduce risk by having requirements, that's for sure. And those requirements are not broad and generic. They're binary. You can either meet them or not meet them, right? But it's not just a requirements document. It's also a cost, an estimate, a quote, something that says, hey, if we go after doing this, it will likely cost you this. And it may even include, if spending that kind of money is its own risk, or having to go ask for that kind of budget is its own risk, it may include a way to mitigate that by saying, we're going to recommend a multi-phase implementation, a multi-phase project, multiple projects that each have their own budgets, but allow you to build up some wins, some success organizationally, politically, so that you can go get the next round of budget to do the next amount of work. So if you have to mitigate the budget question, discovery helps you with that. If you have to mitigate the what are we building question, discovery helps you with that. If you are trying to do a design, right, and you need to understand who your competitors are, you need to understand who your target, your customers, your segments, and which segments will respond to what, you're mitigating other kinds of risk, right? So it is not just here's what we're going to code. You can have risks on the design side, right? Years ago, this is early on the internet, right? Stanford asked a company to build them the website, right? We're literally talking like 95, 96. And in 1995 or 96, a company came along and said, we can build you an online presence. And so they went and they did it. And unfortunately, they did no discovery at all, right? So they asked for content, they got the content, they put it up together. Mind you, this is before Stanford had a website. And so, shock of all shocks, the website loads up, and the main color on the site is blue. And you're like, we're red. Like, you can't do blue. Now, I was an alum of Berkeley. I loved it. I was like, look, cool, it's blue, right? It lasted for seconds because they're like, no, take it down. You can't possibly have made this kind of egregious error. Well, you can when the whole time you're talking, nobody ever stops to ask, is there a particular color palette that you need, right? So the point, when we go to do discovery, the point is that we're going to look at questions we've asked the client. We're going to ask questions of the client, and hopefully we'll have questions we've asked of the client. We're going to have looked at if they have an existing website. We're going to look at what's there. What's the content that's there? We're going to ask naturally, what part of this content do we want to keep? What part of this content do we not? We'll ask logically, do you want to move this content or do you not? We will ask, who are your competitors, right? The last thing you want, if you're a financial website and every other financial website is dark blue or green, and these are the two colors, you may want to go orange or red. You may want to go somewhere else so that you're memorable, right? So we want to look at your competitors. We want to look at your brand. We want to look at your internal systems that you're going to need to connect to, because you'll just say, well, we've done this stuff before, so we probably just need to connect here or there. We'll get you a hold of the person, only to discover, well, yeah, the very thing that you're trying to do, there's no API for that. So you would have to do more, right? And all of this investigation is valuable. If a customer does it on their own, goes through and pulls all this together, analyzes it, writes it up, and whatever, you don't need a discovery project. But if you're going to do it, well, likely what you're bringing to the table is your experience. What you're bringing to the table is your background, your ability to discern where to go and where to dig in, what questions to ask. And that's valuable, which is why we charge for discovery, right? Because it's not just the number of hours you're spending, it's the fact that you know where to dig in. You know where to go and say, wait a minute, hold on. Are you planning on using this? Well, what kind of traffic do you have? This could be a performance issue. And they might never have thought to even evaluate their particular solution against performance requirements, because they hadn't specified performance requirements, because it's something they hadn't really thought about doing. So when we step into discovery, we are looking at trying to answer, what is your biggest problem that we're trying to solve? We're trying to understand, what are your goals, right? What is it? How do we determine success? We want to understand, who are all the interested parties. It's easy to think, okay, it's the guy that comes to visit the site, but it turns out I have a partner, I have another guy who comes and brings data, I have other systems that load in stuff. There's a lot of different players, and I have to make sure that every different role is covered, and I need to know those things. We will dig into, what is the expected behavior in the dynamic, and also, what is the current dynamic and the current behavior of people that are keeping this website or this software application running that maybe you want to change. Because it turns out someone's spending 3 days a month just trying to fit some data into a certain way, and you realize, well, we can change that. But you can't ever change it if you don't know about it. We'll look at, okay, what's your content strategy? Particularly if you're building out a website, not so much if you're building an application. On the application side, we'll look at what's your UI and UX, and we'll talk through that. But if you have a content strategy for your website, right, how much of the old content works? How much do you need new content? We'll help you walk through that, but we'll also then be asking, what about migration, right? What do we need to worry about? And then, as we navigate through the existing features, we will ask, what of this are you bringing over, and what of this are you done with? Because what you're going to discover is, there's a tremendous amount of stuff that's hidden in people's current systems that they forget to tell you. Years ago, we bought a company. The company I was working for, we bought a company, and we looked at their product. We had people give us a tour of their product, and we rebuilt their product on new technology. And so we rebuilt it, and we had what we believed was about 90% of the application built in about 2-3 weeks. And we showed it to the CEO, and we said, here it is. And he walked it all through. He'd been the first one to give us a demo of the product we'd bought. And so he was like, yeah, this is perfect. This is great. And then, right, we showed it to the person who actually does the job, that runs, that provides support for that website. And they said, yeah, this is great. Wow, okay, you changed some things, but this looks cool. This is really clean. I like this. Okay. Where's the, and she listed off 5 or 6 features we'd never seen before. And we were like, I've never heard of it. I've never seen it. She said, oh, come over here. And there was a little link at the top right of the page that said contact. And the whole time we assumed that contact was like a contact us form. And I don't know why we didn't dig into it deeper. But when you clicked on it, and I don't remember how it worked, but if you clicked on it, it took you somewhere. And then towards the bottom, there was another link. And when you took that link, it opened you up into 5 or 6 different customer support. It's like a customer support portal with 5 or 6 features that we'd never seen before. And that probably took us another month or 2 to code up, to deliver all the value of the stuff that was hidden. Now imagine that you've built out a articulation of what you're going to do, and you don't have that in scope. Discovery is not just a one-sided communication. Discovery is a joint project with a customer, so you can be walking through what you're learning, what you're discovering, and they come back and they say, where's all of this? Where's the that? And you go, we haven't even seen that yet. Oh, and then they walk you through it. Right? So Once we understand what a discovery project is, then the piece is, okay, how do we go about doing it? Right? What's the process? What's the flow? Because we tell a customer, okay, we want to have a discovery project, and they say sure, and they sign on a dotted line, and maybe they give us a deposit, and we get going, and we say, okay, the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna have a meeting, right? We're gonna have a meeting internally, and when we have a meeting internally, we're gonna talk through all those things that I listed out, right? We're gonna talk through it. We want to understand problems, we want to understand goals, and we want to collect from our internal team any data they have heard, collected, interacted with the customer. On top of that, any data our customer has. Oh, do you have a website? Oh, do you have sample content? Oh, do you have this? Do you have schedules? Do you have all your interested parties? Do you have the policy for how you do this or that? Bring it all in, because we need to go through all of this, right? So we have an internal meeting first to say, okay, this is all the stuff we have, and these are the different people and the roles they're going to have, so that we can go after this work of analysis. At that point, right, we will likely sit down with the customer and have a kickoff meeting during discovery, right? And as we do that, right, what we're doing is we're just listening to a customer, we're asking questions. We're looking for us to share with them things we've already learned, right? We're noticing this, we're noticing this, we're noticing this. And every time we notice something, we're saying, is that accurate? Because what we're doing is we're opening up an opportunity for a customer to tell us, well, not exactly that, it's more like this. Or not, there's nuance. There's nuance everywhere. And the only way that people give us that nuanced information is when we first start by saying, here's what I understand about your business. Because when we say, here's what I understand, and they're like, well, not exactly. Now they tell you the part you were missing. Now they tell you the nuance. So a lot of that meeting is just going after nuance, is saying, here's what I think, right? Here's what I think. Here's what I think. When we did discovery with a recent client, it was a day and maybe a full day or a day and a half. And part of the reason we're doing that, right? Part of the reason we have big chunks, half-day chunks, right, is because we don't want a customer to sit in a room for 12 hours straight, right? So we'll do 4 hours, take a break, another 4 hours, take an overnight, and then the next 4 hours, and then say, okay, we've collected all that we can. Sometimes we'll discover even that's not enough, right? Most discovery projects, depending on the size of the work we're doing, easily between client meetings and then our own internal meetings and our own research and our own writing, easily take a week, if not two. And depending on how big a project could be, if you're talking about a 9-month project, discovery could take a couple weeks. So when we dig into this, we're looking for facts. What is just plain data? What are the facts we need to know? We're also looking for what are the feelings that people have about the current systems and what frustrates them. Because what you'll discover is a lot of times it won't have been written down what bothers them so much about their current situation, their current system. And because they haven't written it down, it's nowhere in your notes. If you spend all the time doing a discovery and you still haven't solved any of their pains, the ones that frustrate them, it won't be a success. And what we've collected in the midst of all that is we've collected from them, what are some of their ideas? What are some of their hopes, right? Customers will tell you, it'd be great if. Now, we don't guarantee that all of that will happen, but we want to know it. We want to know, what are all your dreams? What are the things, what are the things that you dream of, right? Or in a perfect scenario, right? What does success look like? And they start describing it, and you go, okay, that's good. Is there anything else you'd like? Anything? Well, it'd be great if. You're looking for that phrase, right? Because we're trying to collect it to be able to say, well, which of these are easy that we can throw in? Which of these things are much harder and we can put as a separate phase? And then we get into, and often one of the core questions we're asking with the customer is, have you ever tried this before? And where did it fall down? Where did it break? What were the problems? Did you ever try and redo your website before? Did you ever try and reskin this application before? What were the issues? What challenges did you face? Because what you discover is you don't want to do the same, have the same experience with them, right? Because they're going to be like, look, we've already been here, and they'll write you off quickly. So part of the dynamic is to go, okay, where are the landmines? What do I have to navigate around so that I don't have these problems, right? Because I don't want to have them. So where are the potholes in the road, and how do I maneuver between them, right? As we're doing this, right, you're going to be having this dialogue, and as we have the dialogue, there may be some ideas or some existing features that you just go, we're not going to do that. That's definitely we're gonna put that on the no list. And when you do, we need to write it down. We need to write it down, and we need to write down why. Because invariably, someone's going to show up later, towards the end of discovery or in the middle of the project, and say, hey, how come we're not doing this? And you want to be able to go back and say, oh, part of discovery, we figured out what we weren't going to do and why, right? So that's the core of discovery. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that we've missed, but that's the piece of it. When we're done, right? When we're done, we should have a high level definition of not only the problem, but the solution. We should have an approach that mitigates risks. So we should have a process or approach that suggests what the next steps are. We should have budgets associated for it, or we can wait for someone to say, yes, I like what I've read, I like the analysis, and I would like you to give me a quote, but we should have that quote prepared. We should have the specifics of what we will do and the specifics of what we won't do. And in particular, when we're talking about applications or websites that are like applications, we should have key features and flows articulated so that everybody is clear on what's going into the statement of work or what's going into the real project, right? Very clearly defined binary specs that either you deliver or you don't deliver. We don't want generic like, oh, we'll be doing some ads on the site. You want to be able to articulate, it's these kinds of ads done this way. These are the benefits of this approach we're going to take. This is where we would like to see them in this number of places, and we expect it to be able to do this, this, and this, and be tracked this way and this way. Then you go, okay, I know exactly what you're talking about. And at the end of discovery, we should all have a much clearer sense of what we're going after. Now, the beautiful thing is they can take all that and they can take it somewhere else, or they can bring it back to you and ask for a quote. And if you get it and you give it to your team, then your team says, I know exactly what I'm building. I know what I got to do next. And I know what open questions or where the places are that we have to go dig in and talk more. So that's all about discovery. Thanks.